We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
And we're back with Tim Donner, Graham J. Noble, and Scott D. Cosenza discussing the ins and outs of President Biden's State of the Union address. Now, earlier in the show, we talked the highs and lows and whether there was an identifiable theme. But now I want to get into the nitty-gritty of it and figure out just what political realities lie below the laundry list of the hot topics delivered to Congress. Now, Scott, there were a number of policies, or perhaps more accurately, wish list items in the address. Now, surely he knows that things like a federal abortion law and the like, these kind of things won't get passed with the GOP House. So what's the motivation?
Well, I can only assume the motivation is to virtue signal to people who want abortion to be legal and will vote for somebody based on that status alone, that they should vote for him. It's so funny, too. They don't even use the word abortion. As I recall during the speech, it was enshrine the protections of Roe v. Wade, enforce it. And of course, Roe v. Wade is a Supreme Court precedent that has since been overturned. And Congress cannot, the very language of it is preposterous. Congress can't enshrine Roe v. Wade into law. Roe v. Wade is a decision by the Supreme Court that says the Constitution means X, Y, and Z. That's not how Congress operates. They can pass a federal law. Even if they did pass a federal law giving people the rights that the Supreme Court said were constitutional in Roe v. Wade, it wouldn't be enshrining Roe v. Wade into law. It's a separate mechanism. And maybe it's because I'm a lawyer who focuses on constitutional issues, but it does drive me batty that this is the way that the conversation is circled in on. But to answer your question, I'm sure it's a virtue signal and an attempt to gain, political support for his candidacy moving forward.
Graham, same question for you, but also I want your thoughts on the GOP reaction.
Well, yeah. I mean, first of all, in reference to that particular question, of course, the wish list, if you like, of future legislative policy goals and so on is all about saying to people, look, when the election rolls around in 2024. Not only do you have to re-elect me, but you need to give the Democrats control. You need to put the Democrats back in charge in the House of Representatives so that we can get these things done. So that's what it's all about to me. In terms of the GOP rebuttal, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, now governor of Arkansas, delivered that. And of course, the one thing that jumped out at everybody was that she said, this is not a question of a choice between right and left anymore. It's a question. It's a question of, it's choosing between normal and crazy. And she's taken a lot of flack for that. I happen to agree with her because I like to sometimes just step away from the party politics of it, the D's and R's after people's names, and say, look, we've got a situation now where, in truth, most of the people in this country, or certainly I believe, and I would put money on it, most of the people in this country want normal. They want, we might have little differences of opinion of how we say provide healthcare services or how we do this, how we do that, how much government intervention should there be in the economy. We can differ over those things, but still most people in this country, regardless of what party they vote for, I believe want a sense of normality. And then you've got this other faction, which is being pandered to by the Democratic Party and specifically by Mr. Biden, who actually want crazy.
Okay. Tim, what about you?
Well, I think another key distinction that Sarah Sanders drew in her Republican response, which I thought was overall very impressive. I think she's got quite a future. And she pointed to the future in basically what I call the 40-80 construct. She said, I'm 40 years old, the youngest governor in the United States. Joe Biden is 80, the oldest man ever to serve. in the presidency. So she's trying to create an image of Republicans as being more youthful than Democrats, that they're the ones with more of the normal ideas, as Graham was talking about. And clearly, Sarah Sanders, who proved herself, of course, as press secretary and an excellent one, as Kayleigh McEnany was for Donald Trump, that were both very effective. She got home the message using the key language, mincing no words, using words like woke mob, and not going quite as far as what Graham said, but saying that the left refuses to even define what a woman is. This is where we've reached the point of absurdity, where the line of acceptable discourse and acceptable ideas, the Overton window, so to speak, they're pulling it further and further towards crazy and trying to represent it as being normal.
Okay, so obviously, I think many people would agree that there is definitely a shift in the Overton window. I mean, we see it in what I guess a lot of people also say there's no such thing as cancel culture, which to those with eyes, ears, and computers know that that's not quite true. So the final thoughts on this is Karine Jean-Pierre, the present White House press secretary. Oh, and by the way, Tim, I noticed when you enumerated President Trump's great press secretaries, you didn't mention Sean Spicer. Does he not fit the bill of a great press secretary for you?
I think he was a bit dazed and confused is what I would say. But I will say, for the sake of bipartisanship, that I thought Jen Psaki was also an effective press secretary for Joe Biden. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sean Spicer, a hell of a dancer.
I would agree, actually. She was far more professional, and look, you can argue all day about whether Jen Psaki was basically, let's say, being often disingenuous in terms of the answers she gave, but nevertheless, she presented an air of professionalism and competence. She actually seemed to be qualified to do that job.
So my final question, though, she said just before the State of the Union that this was Joe Biden's writing, that we would see Joe Biden in these words that were about to be presented. Who bought that? We have cricket and tumbleweed on the idea that Joe Biden actually wrote a single word of that presentation that he made before Congress.
I think it's pretty clear that he spent most of the, 60 weekends he's been away from the White House, scribbling away with notes on the State of the Union and what he was going to do, and changing and scratching out, being right on top of it. I'm sure that
you want this guy to spend more time at the White House, Tim?
Yes.
60 weekends is light.
I wasn't complaining.
Oh, okay.
The edits and the revisions were very easy because obviously he was doing it on an Etch-a-Sketch, possibly with crayons. So, gentlemen, we will be back shortly after this short break, tackling how all this worked out as a 2024 launch pad for President Biden. Don't go anywhere. We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides. Entertaining, informative, and just plain fun. Watch Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5. Produced by conservatives for conservatives. C5's The Left Free Zone. Hosted by Liberty Nation's Lisa K. Donner. Joined by a raucous, irreverent panel of authors. Deconstructing leftist narratives. Debating the hot topics. And remembering to laugh. Join the official conservative safe space.
You only did that to piss Jeff off.
Liberty Nation's The Conservative 5.